All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If everybody could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll do roll call.
Christy Arlinghouse. Here. Mike Daugherty.
Here.
Carol McGowan. Here. Chad Longbonds.
Here.
Deborah No. Here. Patrick Hackett.
Here.
Okay, next item is approval of minutes for the May 24th council meeting. Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, thanks, Carol.
I'll second.
Okay, Christy.
Mike Daugherty.
Yes.
Carol McGowan.
Yes.
Chad Longbonds. Deborah No.
Yes.
Patrick Hackett.
Yes.
Christy Arlinghouse.
Yes.
Okay, and then the next item is June 14th special meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to approve those?
Move to approve. I'll
Thanks,
second.
Mike. Pat?
Carol McGowan.
Yes.
Chad Longbonds.
Yes.
Deborah No.
Yes.
Patrick Hackett.
Yes.
Christy Arlinghouse.
Yes.
Mike Daugherty.
Yes.
All right, thank you, everyone. Next item is the mayor's report. The only thing that I have this month is just to announce that we have appointed our permanent director of public works, Tanya Miller, who has been serving in that capacity as the interim director for about 5 or 6 weeks now. Has been named the permanent director. So big congratulations to Tanya. She's done a great job for the city. I think will continue to do so, and we're really excited to have her in that position. Most likely, starting with the August council meeting, Tanya will start attending the meetings on a monthly basis and providing a public works report out to council, just to kind of let everybody know what's going on, status updates of things, and to just bring more transparency to public works. So very excited about that. Next item is the fire authority report. Chief Wynn.
Good evening. I'll be very brief as usual. 53 fire calls for the month, 249 year to date, 108 ambulance calls, and 381 year to date. The ambulance calls are certainly on an uptick here lately. Good news is we passed our state ambulance inspection with no errors at all. Other than a large plumbing issue at the current firehouse, nothing else to report. We're hoping in the next 2 weeks that gets repaired, but it may be rather expensive and lengthy.
What happened with it?
One of the drains collapsed. This had happened about 5 years ago. They were able to fix a small section of it. Right now we're waiting to see if they can get a snake and a camera through completely. If that's the case, they won't have to break any floor up. If that's not the case, then it will be expensive to repair. So the sooner we get the new fire.
Used drain?
Is that what?
Heavily used drain?
Yes, it is. It's the drain from the kitchen out to the cemetery.
Any indication why there's an ambulance uptake?
No, other than really the statistics are showing that people waited during COVID to go to the hospital, and those people that have been putting chest pains off and that sort of thing until now are now taking it a little more serious. So really the car accidents and the overdoses are kind of down, which is different for this time of year because usually with the nice weather there's an uptick, but it seems to be more of the heart attack and stroke related.
Thank you.
That's good news.
Okay, and so
Thanks,
Chief
Chief
Holtz is
Wood.
here to give a report on the new firehouse.
Sure.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, Councilman. First of all, I thought I'd just give you a quick update on what's been going on in the last basically year and a half. And this firehouse has been a dream of ours for a long time, so it's finally coming to fruition, and we're happy about that. So first of all, a feasibility study was done in the fall of 2020 to determine if we could even reuse or do anything with the current fire station. and it was deemed outdated and not suited to be remodeled or used for anything else. It's just lived its life. At that point, a request for bids to design a new firehouse went out in the fall of 2020. A $6 million loan was obtained from the Kentucky League of Cities by Councilman Jim Cahill from Villa Hills. I'm sure he worked with you, for people from your council as well. And that's going to be a 25-year loan to be paid off. Branstad Carroll Architects and Engineering Firm was awarded a contract to design a new fire station. And we had the first meeting with them on February 24th of this year. And we've been meeting about every 2 weeks since then, working on the design, the concept, and what the place is going to look like. And since that time also, a site environmental study has been completed. A building survey for hazardous materials has been completed on the current building. Site survey, all the topography, where all the utilities are, all that's been completed. Soil boring has been done, determine the condition of the soil to place the building and where all that needs to go. The deed to the current 3.5 acres, which was owned by the Crescent Springs Volunteer Fire Department, Inc., has been deeded over to the Crescent Villa Fire Authority. So that's been taken care of. And on May 20th, I gave an update to the entire Firehouse Building Committee, which consists of citizens and people from both councils and fire department. So the building is approximately going to be 20,000 square feet, and it's going to be built behind the current station. And we have a site plan there. So the current building is in light blue right here, and the existing building it will be in red. And you can see it's quite a bit larger because we need a lot more things these days than what we used to. So what's going to happen is once that building, the new building gets complete, we'll be working out of the current station until the new station is complete. Once that is done, we'll move everything into the current station. We'll be running onto Western Reserve just on a temporary basis until they tear down the existing station, get the ramps and everything built, and then we'll be responding out the front onto Overlook just as we currently do. So there'll be a month or two where we will be responding out the back on the Western Reserve, but that's about it. So far, we've determined what we need in a new firehouse. It's going to have individual bedrooms. We'll have 6 bays, drive-through bays to prevent backing accidents. There'll be classroom segregation of contaminated areas. There'll be a large classroom that the community can use as well for civic if they need a larger classroom type place to hold whatever. What else? Exhaust systems. SCBA room for our compressed air bottles, lots of different things like that will be in this new station. So we're really looking forward to it. As far as the timeline goes, the final design hopefully will be completed by August 6th, and actually I think we're about a month ahead of schedule at this point. Construction documents we worked on until somewhere in November, December. We'll get all that taken care of, and then a contract to award sometime in late this year, early next year, and hopefully construction will start sometime first of the year. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Branstad Carroll, and they'll go through the rest of the slides and show you what the building. If you've got any questions about that, anybody got any questions for me at this point? We're good? Great, thank you.
Thank you, Gary, Council. So I'll continue with where Gary left off on the site here. Let me make sure I'm flipping this correctly. So we've got, as he mentioned, the existing station will stay intact during construction in order for them to maintain operations, and then once they're done, we'll tear that portion of it down. But essentially we'll have a new apron out onto Overlook Drive. You can see the building there in red. That's the new fire station. There is a area there for the flight poles and those type of things near the public parking. We do have the Western Reserve, so they will have an access to Western Reserve from the new station. So we'll give them access from both sites for both response and return from response activities. Dumpster area, expanded parking. You can see there for public, so when the public come in, they'll have a place to park, utilize the classroom. Even if they're coming in to get a blood pressure check, they won't be parking on the apron, which will prevent, if they have to leave for a call, it won't prevent any issues there. And then we also have staff parking in the back for the volunteers and for the officers who are on duty during the day through their shift. And then you can see there in the blue, the existing building. So we'll move on to the floor plan. As Gary mentioned, we've up here at the front will be the public entry. So there'll be an entry that'll bring you into the lobby. There's a small triage room where they can do some blood pressure checks, that kind of stuff. There's an admin area located here. So if somebody's coming in for a burn permit or coming in to talk to the chief, there's a place there for that. And then we have this blue area kind of over here on the left. That's the classroom training room for the fire department. It can also be used by the public for meetings. It'll be set up for basically as a multi-purpose space, so they can move that around and change it how they need to for operations. All of this area you see here on the left is the bunk rooms, the individual bunk rooms. And then all of this you see in red is the apparatus bays, ambulance bays, fire apparatus, and support space for that. And as Gary mentioned, you can kind of see there's a break here where we can maintain and protect the dirty areas from the living areas. And then we have over here, we have some of their other living spaces, their kitchen and day room and locker rooms and such. So that stuff's going to populate here as we kind of went through. And so we do have a basement you can see up on the top there. Because of the topography of the site, we are able to work in a small basement that will be located right here underneath the kitchen and day room. That will serve as their kind of mechanical space, those kind of spaces, but also as a storm shelter. Code now requires that all public safety facilities have a storm shelter for first responders to have a place to go so that they're able to still maintain response following a weather impact or another man-made event. So that'll be there. And I believe that is it. There we go. So this is the perspective rendering looking at Overlook Drive, or from Overlook Drive to the new department. So you can see the public entry here, community room, and then you've got the apparatus space located right here. And that wraps up the presentation. Is there any questions?
Question for you. The firehouse in the construction, have they inspected anything as far as generating backups since it is a central operation for the firehouse, things like that?
Yeah.
Emergency situations?
Yes, we will have a generator backup for the building to keep them in operation.
Is the roof a flat top?
To what, I'm sorry?
Is the roof a flat top?
No, it is a sloped roof.
Good.
Yep. Anybody else? All right, well, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the police report. Chief Allen.
Give me a sec. Here you go, Chief.
Thank you. She's this, I guess? Okay.
Should be there.
Excellent, thank you very much. All right, total crimes for the month, 21, total collisions, 14, 97 citations, 49 courtesies, call response 5, chasing 3, which is domestic 5, and total crisis, which is mental health 2. Of the total crimes, 21, we have 1 assault, 6 larcenies, and the rest were misdemeanor crimes or drug crimes. Open cases, we have 2 rape first cases open, 2 criminal abuse cases open, 1 sexual abuse case. 1 case was closed, criminal mischief, juvenile. It's going to be charged under the juvenile offenses. We have 6 cases set for trial with the detective, or a plea was entered, 1 warrant was issued. Robbery first was pled down to robbery second. We have a jury for sodomy. Guilty plea for PCS first heroin. Warrants issued for theft, and jury trial set for drugs. So most of those are going. Crime is Crescent Springs. You see, it's kind of all over. A lot of the stuff on the around the buttermilk area is some of the drugs, some of the larceny. You get a lot of that right there off the highway. Philly Hills, we have 3. You see right there. Crescent Springs, again, if you notice between Anderson and Buttermilk, that's where we're hitting it. It's just a lot of traffic. The roads are horrible. Also down between Collins and Anderson, we're hitting it hard too. And then in the back sections of the new subdivisions, as you see here. Villa Hills, the citations on the interstate are also Crescent Springs, but because it was FOT money, it comes back as Villa Hills, so it was kind of both. So, but you kind of see where we're doing right. The tickets there in Crescent and Villa Hills. Collisions all together. Again, it's Anderson between Buttermilk and 75. That's our biggest point. It's a bad area. It's traffic's horrible there, and I don't know what we can do about it once we get it redesigned. Buttermilk's got 10 accidents. Terry 3, 75, and the ramp are 2, and Anderson 2. Total injuries or collisions. We had 14 collisions, 1 injury, 1 total injured. No fatalities, 1 commercial vehicle, 2 with property, and 3 in the parking lot. Made crime charges and dispositions. That's just basically everything we've opened up. The case numbers are on the left-hand side, and they're open and closed, and it goes by CS's Crescent Springs, BH, so you kind of see what we've got opened up there. But like I said, a lot of the drugs are arrested. FBI Safe Streets Task Force, we had 9 hours overtime. FOT, which is the federal overtime grant, 8. Crescent Springs Music Fest, 5.5. Shift covers 25, court 6. And we had a PD conference in Cincinnati, with Cincinnati PD, 6, so 60 total hours. Canine activity. We had 2 felony stops, 1 narcotics search, 8 narcotics search, 1 building search, and 1 traffic. And then this is his training for the month. He's on-page training everything. And these are training hours for the month. Use of force was trained. We're going to train use of force again at the next range because we've changed use of force. So that we have to train in it now. And off-duty carry, the range will be 13th and 15th of this month. So we'll get our qualifications in the drug test. Any questions on that?
So will you let us know if there's any changes as far as use of force?
Use of force.
Yeah.
The use of force will change. What's changing in that?
But you'll let us know if there's any substantial changes once you complete the training?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you basically what it is we're because of the officer involved shooting, we reviewed it. We're expounding on some of the areas there as to how we do it. There will be another use of force coming up because tasers are supposed to be now considered deadly force if you use them more than 2 times. So then we'll have to retrain them on that again and change it based on federal standards. Officer Bullard is our newest officer. He's doing very well. He should be out on the street on his own in about 3-4 weeks. Officer Sean Dooley was awarded the Medal of Valor. Officer Andrew Lucas, the Distinguished Service, or not distinguished, honorable mention, and Matt Hall were both honored at our last meeting. So, any questions? Any other questions? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Chief. Next item is City Administrator's Report. Mike?
Mayor Hartfield and council members, I've got a very short report. First off, on the Fairness Ordinance and Human Rights Commission, we actually had a very nice response from from several citizens within the Crescent Springs area that are interested in serving on the Human Rights Commission. The mayor and I have requested resumes from those persons that are interested. That way it may assist us with the actual selection process. Regarding Z21, the mayor and I have spoke, and as of right now, we've drafted a committee consisting of the mayor, Councilmember Hackett, Councilmember Darty, Greg Sketch, city engineer, myself, and we may be reaching out, kind of like we did with the Human Rights Commission, to see if there might be interest for possibly 2 citizens within our community. That would be a good way to round off that actual committee for the Z21. And lastly, regarding the American Rescue Plan Act, there's nothing to report. No news. Everybody have a great 4th of July.
Could you explain the Kenton County Z21 blueprint zoning ordinance? Because I think people in the audience and people listening probably don't know what that's about. Just
It's going to be
short
a
overview.
process that's going to review and redo all of our zoning rules that we have in place for the city of Crescent Springs and the Kenton County area. It's basically going to catch us up to the 21st century.
Okay. I think people would be interested in knowing that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Next item on the agenda is our section of old business, starting with the second reading of ordinance 2021-6.
Ordinance 2021-6, an ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, repealing ordinance 2020-10 regarding the position of Assistant City Administrator / Zoning Administrator and the adoption of an amended position description. Whereas City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, and the Mayor adopted ordinance number 2020-10, which amended ordinance number 2019-7 regarding the position of Zoning Administrator / Project Coordinator by retitling the position to be the Assistant City Administrator / Zoning Administrator and adopting an amended position description. And whereas City Council and the Mayor have determined that the position of Assistant City Administrator / Zoning Administrator is no longer necessary, beginning with the fiscal year beginning on July 1st, 2021, now therefore be it ordained by the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, that ordinance number 2020-10 is hereby repealed. The position of Assistant City Administrator / Zoning Administrator is hereby abolished. Any ordinances or parts of ordinances that are conflict herewith are to the extent of such conflict repealed. This ordinance shall become effective on July 1st, 2021.
I have a question. What does it mean by adopting an amended position description?
When the ordinance was passed, there was a new job description prepared, and that was affixed to the ordinance that was adopted.
Oh, okay. So it was like an addendum.
Correct.
Okay. Gotcha.
All right, any other questions on 2021-6? Do we have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve 2021-6.
Okay, Pat? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Chad Longbonds,
Yes.
Deborah No,
Yes.
Patrick Hackett,
Yes.
Christie Arlinghouse,
Yes.
Mike Darty,
Yes.
Kara McGowan,
Yes.
Okay, ordinance passes 6-0. Next item is the second reading of ordinance 2021-8.
Before I read this, I do want to indicate to everyone that there was a change in the sentence regarding the compensation from the last reading. So you're going to see a slightly different, you see a different sentence than what's on your
And
screen.
can I ask a question? We had some dialogue about this at the last meeting, whether there was a need for this ordinance because we had the position description in the personnel policy handbook. And I think you were gonna I thought, because we had it in the handbook, it would be okay to hire a seasonal right away. And I think Patrick said you had somebody lined up to start tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, why are we doing an ordinance versus following the usual procedure that we have? No, I understand that we have used as far as using the personnel policy manual.
I am told, and I won't say that I verified it, but I've been told that we do not have such a position in the personnel handbook. And since it involves the disbursement of funds, we need to do an ordinance.
It's not in there? I know why, because it's changed. We hadn't updated the personnel policy handbook in so long, and we had it in there to change, and it hasn't been adopted yet.
Right.
That's it. Okay.
Ordinance number 2021-8, an ordinance of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, establishing the position of seasonal park maintenance assistant and the compensation for said position. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky as follows. Section 1, City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, and the mayor hereby adopt this ordinance to establish the position of seasonal park maintenance assistant. Such position is part-time. The compensation for said position shall be from $12 to $20 per hour. It is expected that the position will allow one to work no more than 8 hours per week. The duties of the seasonal park maintenance assistant are set forth in the attached Exhibit A and are incorporated herein by reference. Section 2, all ordinances or parts of ordinances that conflict herewith are to the extent of such conflict hereby repealed. This ordinance shall be effective from its passage and publication according to law.
Okay. I have a couple questions. First one is, it says only 8 hours a week. When this was discussed, we talked at least 10, and there is a concern. You got Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, you got a holiday before, a holiday after. You've restricted now to full-time people working to taking care of this of this ordinance. How do we amend this or take the hours out to give flexibility to Public Works to use this on a seasonal basis? And let's say if we have a special event in the park, that person could be used. You've restricted it.
Well, when you say I've restricted it, I'll take issue with that
I'm
statement.
sorry, the ordinance had restrictions here.
But it can be amended, certainly.
Okay, how do we amend it?
What is it that you're trying to accomplish?
I would like to leave the hours open.
So you want to put a max on those hours?
Maybe we could put a range, like from
Okay, put 8 to
20,
16.
8 to,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Perhaps we even say not to exceed 20 hours a week or, something like that.
Yeah,
I'd
I
like
can
to-
tell, go ahead, Chrissy, I'm sorry.
that's okay, go ahead.
I can tell you right now, the numbers have been reworked, and there is enough money for 10 hours a week through the whole season for that person. So it gives us flexibility. If we have something, we could increase his hours from 8 to 12 to whatever.
And what's the time frame? Are they gonna only do, like, come in on Saturday night when things are over, or come in on Sunday morning before things begin? Are
This
they
would
gonna
be-
drive down the walking trails like Roger Randolph used to do with the gator to see if there's any debris or anybody hanging out after hours, which happened?
4 hours cleaning up the bathrooms, getting all the trash, and the dumpster has helped out a lot, having it over there.
And are we gonna, there was some talk about amending the contract with the person that is reserving the shelter to have them take their trash to the dumpster?
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Okay.
That's next on the agenda, or down on the list.
And there is kind of a one-page sheet that kind of showcases the job duties as part of the position as well, that I believe should be in the council packet next to this ordinance.
Okay.
So,
I would like to make a motion where we amend this, where it is, the hours range from 8 to 16 hours in a week. Is that satisfactory to everybody?
We need a second.
Well, you know,
I second it.
Go ahead.
if we have like a music fest,
Yeah,
okay, usually you start earlier in the day, okay, setting up signs, things like that, and it continues until 10:30, 10 o'clock or so, so, right, 10:30 or so. I'd like to see it be 20 hours, just to be on the
okay,
safe
that's
side.
fine. Let's do 20.
Soon, I said it.
Okay, I'll amend the motion to 20 hours, 8 to 20. Carol?
And I'll second that.
The second time.
And there might be a need where we have to have them for the day before, like Music Fest and Christmas, to set it up.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
Okay.
Usually on those events, you need all hands on deck
And like I
and
said,
more.
we've redone, we will be submitting a revised budget to finance, and it is in there for 10 hours a week for the person through the whole season. So there's good flexibility for things.
Right, because there's, sometimes they won't have much to do because there's nothing rented out.
Yeah,
Or it's rained all weekend long.
well, you get into October, how many people are gonna rent the shelter?
Do we have a definition of season?
Seasonal.
It's on the top, it says time frame April 1st.
Yeah.
November 1st.
Yeah, there's, the one pager that I had mentioned has quite a few details just on what the position will be.
There they are. They're on your screen.
So it'll go up until the first week of December.
First week of November.
But we have Christmas in the park.
Person could come over and help through that period. I showed there'd be some flexibility.
Okay.
Well, I guess that's part of the reason I asked the question, because if you want this person to come in December, and we have on the
Go ahead.
document that it's a seasonal
I
position,
know.
and the season is April 1st to November 1st, so no, they're not working in the first week in November, they're working through April 30th or October 31st or November 1st, depending how you read that. But they can't help at Christmas because it's not the season.
So we should at least put in there or anything in between,
With exceptions.
with exception. That'll really leave it open. I know,
We
Mike.
could just put, with the exception of Christmas in the park.
Okay.
Because we may decide sometime to have it the second week of Saturday. So we could just say,
With the exception.
of Christmas in the park.
How's that sound? I mean, right now, I
I'm gonna
don't think there'll
suggest
be
that
too many
be
events.
put into the attachment,
Okay.
rather than the ordinance
Yeah,
directly,
the attachment.
as a work, term of condition of employment.
And does the employee sign that?
Christie, I'm not there when they hire them, so I can't answer
Okay,
that
well,
question.
then I ask, does the employee sign that? So they understand what they're,
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea, Mike.
The job description, yes. And this person has started, they started this
Ah,
last week.
that's a good way to do it.
And I actually think my recommendation would be to stick from April to November. We're gonna have 4 people full-time within our public works department that will be committed to Christmas in the park. That's just my thoughts.
Hey, there is a suggestion here on the seasonal employee, and it might be better, and we can get rid of the time frame. Seasonal employee and follow the state standard for seasonal employee.
what is the state
The
standard?
definition of a seasonal employee. If we
They have
use
a
the
definition all worked out for this.
What is the definition?
That they can only work 9 months of the year,
Oh,
as long as there's the gap the rest of the time.
So it solves a lot of
So
this
they're not
problem.
restricted.
well, that would work because you and the events committee could decide to have in February, a snowball event or something, I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm just,
Yeah,
thinking.
About
So,
Easter.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's, stay with the state standard.
Easter floats around.
It
So
gives
that's
us the
it.
flexibility.
That gives you flexibility of 9 months. What do you think?
February.
What if we just dropped the seasonal and it was just a part-time park maintenance assistant?
You get into unemployment maybe.
Gotcha.
With doing seasonal, the unemployment's not an issue.
Yeah.
Yes, if you get into the part-time definition, you start to get into potential pension within the state
Sure.
of Kentucky, so we definitely, I don't want to kind of steer away from that.
Mike, you said this person's already started even though we haven't passed the ordinance?
Started this weekend. Background check was completed.
But started before we had a job description.
He started this past weekend under time use tutelage.
Is that
And
kosher?
with this job description,
I mean,
Yes.
is that allowed? Is
Yes.
that
You can do
kosher?
that under emergency order at the
So
moment.
did we do an emergency order?
we did not.
Okay. Well, what's done is done. We need to keep it in mind in the future.
Yeah.
Deborah, no?
Yes.
Will there be any other changes to this document? Do we need an amendment motion again?
I haven't heard of any. I'll redraft with the changes I've heard that have been proposed. So it would be left at seasonal, and it will be, I assume still no more than 8 to 20 hours as a seasonal employee.
Didn't we just say we would just use the standards by the state?
I think that defines the word seasonal. That was the question.
Okay.
Chad Longbons?
Yes.
Patrick Hackett?
Yes.
Carol McGowan?
Yes.
Mike Darty?
No.
Christie Arlinghouse?
No.
Okay, passes 4-2. All right, next item on the agenda is the reading of municipal order 2021-15.
Municipal Order 2021-15, a municipal order of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, authorizing the mayor to name the park in the City of Crescent Springs the Lou Hartfield Memorial Park. Whereas Lou Hartfield served the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky with honor and distinction for many years, including as a member of the City Council and serving as mayor until his death earlier in 2021. And whereas the City Council and the Mayor desire to recognize the contributions and service of Lou Hartfield for the many years that he served with distinction and honor. And whereas the park in Crescent Springs, Kentucky was important to Lou Hartfield, and he was instrumental in the maintenance and improvement to the park, including the Veterans Memorial and the 9/11 Memorial. Now therefore be it ordained by the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, that the park in Crescent Springs, Kentucky shall henceforth be named the Lou Hartfield Memorial Park to honor the distinguished service of former Mayor Lou Hartfield.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve municipal order 2021-15?
I'll move to approve it.
Deborah?
I'll second.
Chad? Roll call vote?
Patrick Hackett?
Yes.
Deborah, no?
Yes.
Chad Longbons?
Yes.
Carol McGowan?
Yes.
Mike Darty?
Yes.
Christie Arlinghouse?
No.
Okay, municipal order passes 5-1. Next item is new business, reading of municipal order 2021-14.
The municipal order municipal order 2021-14, a municipal order of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, amending appointments to various committees. Whereas the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky has appointed Justin Hartfield as mayor to succeed Lou Hartfield. And as a result of the appointment of Justin Hartfield, Carol McGowan was appointed to City Council to replace Justin Hartfield on council. And the mayor now desiring to appoint Carol McGowan to certain committees. Now therefore be it ordained by the mayor and the city council of the city of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, that the mayor hereby appoints Carol McGowan to the following committees. 1, Village Hills Safety Committee. 2, co-chair of the Communications/Transparency Committee. The appointments herein approved shall be for the remainder of the year 2021 and shall continue until the successor of such appointment is thereafter appointed and or approved. The foregoing member shall have such duties, obligations, rights, and privileges as provided by ordinances and law of the city of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and the United States of America, and is provided by contracts requiring city participation.
All right, do we have a motion to approve municipal order 2021-14?
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Christie Arlinghouse,
Yes.
Mike Darty,
Yes.
Carol McGowan,
I'll actually abstain.
Chad Longbottom, Deborah No,
Yes.
Patrick Hackett.
Yes.
Okay, passes 5-0. Next item, and before we read the next municipal order, just a couple of things that I would say. So at last month's council meeting, we had a few guests and citizens that provided feedback to us on a proposal ordinance before council, one of which was Mr. Flaherty, who's here tonight, Mr. Hester as well, and Mr. Albanese, who spoke about the contributions of Mr. Ripberger and his many years of service to the city of Crescent Springs. And one of the ordinances that was under consideration for first reading last month was to rename Rips Road, the road that leads up into the park off of Collins Road, to rename that road Veterans Way. You know, there was a lot of feedback from our citizens on that potential change. And I just want to say I appreciate the feedback from those that spoke last month. And it became evident that, you know, it was a passion project for many in the community to have this road remain named Rips Road. So that being said, you know, I would say as mayor of Crescent Springs, I also thank Mr. Ripberger for his many years of service, his actually decades of service to the city of Crescent Springs in a variety of roles. And as such, I've withdrawn that ordinance from consideration to council. So instead, what I would propose is this municipal order, which Mr. Baker is about to read, that would instead indicate or rename the main road into the park Veterans Way, which I think does a couple of things. First and foremost, it continues to recognize the many contributions and hard work of Mr. Ripberger over a number of decades to the city, but it also makes the main thoroughfare into the city park, which currently is unnamed, Veterans Way, which not only is a huge honor, I think, to the Kent County Veterans Memorial that has been a part of the park for many, many years, but also is very, very fitting, I think, in our newly named Lou Hartfield Memorial Park. So thank you to Mr. Flaherty, Mr. Hester, and you know, Mr. Albanese is not here tonight, but thank you for your feedback last month. And let's go ahead and read Municipal Order 2021-16.
Municipal Order 2021-16, a municipal order of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, naming the city road that enters the Lou Hartfield Memorial Park as Veterans Way. Whereas the Lou Hartfield Memorial Park includes a 9/11 memorial and a memorial to veterans, and the entrance road to the park is a fitting tribute to the men and women who have served the community and the United States in the armed forces. And whereas the city maintains the entrance road to the Lou Hartfield Memorial Park, and whereas the City Council of the City of Crescent Spring, Kentucky, wishes to place the name of the road as it enters the park to Veterans Way. Now therefore be it ordained by the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Crescent Springs, Kentucky, that henceforth the name of the road serving as the entrance to the Lou Hartfield Memorial Park be named Veterans Way.
All right, do we have a motion to approve municipal order 2021-16?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Pat, thank you. Roll call?
I would just like to say something, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
I'd just like to say I'm glad to see that whatever was under people's skin last week or last month, to take that honor away from Mr. Ripberger got resolved. While George and I have never, we've been friends for 40 years, we don't always see eye to eye.
Sure.
But his contributions to the city, I think deserves him the right to that road.
I also like to reiterate what Mike's saying. I think he's well deserving of this honor to keep the road in his name. He's done a lot for the city.
Yeah, so I think that it's important as we think about our positions on council and being in the mayor's seat, that compromise is certainly something that is beneficial. So I would like to, in honor of our former mayor, who was a veteran, as well as tonight, the park officially being renamed Lou Hartfield Memorial Park, I'd like to go ahead and do roll call vote with the focus on Veterans Way.
Carol McGowan,
Yes.
Chad Longbons,
Yes.
Deborah No,
Yes.
Patrick Hackett,
Yes.
Christy Arlinghouse.
Yes.
Mike Darty.
Yes.
All right, passes 6-0. Thank you, everyone. Next item is Purdue Pharma bankruptcy, which I believe is maybe Mr. Baker.
You know, I've been doing this, I think, for 4 or 5 years, and what people may not know is I've been a bankruptcy trustee for almost 40 years. And I was kind of surprised to see where my 2 career paths have crossed. Many of you have perhaps heard of Purdue Pharma, otherwise known as the maker of OxyContin, and the Sackler family, who are the majority stockholders. And the reason I want to talk about it is a couple months ago, the city received what we in the bankruptcy trade call a proof of claim, a request to file a proof of claim form. A proof of claim form, in its simplest form, is an affidavit that says, this is how much money we are owed. Very common. It is a cornerstone of the bankruptcy process. Because those, generally speaking, who file proofs of claims are the ones who are entitled to receive payment if there's going to be a payment. And in bankruptcy, I will tell you frankly, the if there's going to be a payment is a big question a lot of times. But the Purdue Pharma bankruptcy has been plodding its way through the bankruptcy system, and there have been a whole host of negotiations in different committees that the court has allowed to be formed to have a say in what happens as Purdue Pharma goes forward. Now, let me preface that many times when a company files Chapter 11, it doesn't survive. One of my bankruptcy colleagues calls Chapter 11 Chapter 363, which is the bankruptcy section of the law that allows for sales. This one's a little different, as everything dealing with the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma is. And I'm giving you this little brief instruction mainly because now the time has come to vote on a plan. And I wanted to inform council so I could get feedback from you to see if there's any objection to voting in favor of the plan. The Sackler family and Purdue Pharma are literally putting in billions, that's a B-I-L-L-I-O-N, into various distribution trust funds. And from the distribution trust funds, various distributions will be made. There will be a big chunk of money going to the United States of America, the government. There will be money set aside for those who are claiming damages as a result of the over-prescription and abuse of the drug, OxyContin. And there is a separate trust for non-federal government entities, of which this city is one. The proof of claim that was filed, the number that I'm about to give you came from someone working in the Purdue Pharma case. And a similar notice was sent to virtually every community in Northern Kentucky, and my guess is to virtually every community throughout the United States. But I know it went to several communities like Erlanger, Ellesmere, Alexandria, Warsaw, Walton, because I fielded questions from the lawyers who represent us. And this group sent out, this is what we think the estimate of what your claim should be for the damage caused by the overprescription of OxyContin. And it's on a 40-year track from 2000 to 2040. We're in 2021. So that in itself is most unusual, very unique, I would say, in what I've seen in Chapter 11 bankruptcy practice. But I have to assume going in that the court has given some blessing to that time span without giving a blessing to any particular number. But based on the estimate that was provided to me, I filed a claim on behalf of the city of Crescent Springs for $1,405,361. Don't all start running to the bank.
How'd you arrive at that number?
Okay.
Well, I didn't arrive at the number. This was the number that was provided to me by this committee. That's been estimating what
What committee?
it's a committee that's part of the Purdue Pharma bankruptcy.
Oh, okay.
As to what they think the damage claim should be.
So they might have gotten some information from our EMS folks or something to base the money amount on?
I do not know the methodology,
Okay.
and I'm not
Go
going to
ahead.
venture a guess.
Okay,
But that's the claim I filed.
that's great.
And then, like I said, let's not run to the bank. The reason why I wanted to bring it to the attention of council particularly is that a vote to approve the plan, and if the plan is approved, not only is there an acceptance of this distribution trust and scheme that is included in these materials. Part of that distribution scheme includes a release of any and all claims against not just Purdue Pharma, its officers, agents, stockholders, directors, and when stockholders specifically the entire Sackler, who are putting in a few $1 billion into this case to escape future liability. Whether they escape future criminal liability, that I don't know. So if the plan is confirmed, this city would not be, we would be precluded not be able to pursue any other remedy against Purdue Pharma, including the venture going forward, which is euphemistically called NewCo, is a new company, and the shareholders, stockholders, and officers. Having said that, the alternative is to opt out and decide you want to sue on your own, which I'm going to suggest to you, I'll make lots of money, but nobody else will. Or if it's not me, somebody's going to make money. It's going to be a JD behind me. So I think the city should approve the plan. This has been very hard fought negotiated. I will tell you that I've been following in the bankruptcy blogs that I receive, I've been following this in very general terms. I haven't been able to get into the specifics of each and every one of these. I have read this plan. Spent a couple days last week trying to go through it, see if I could comb through and try to give you a number, and I cannot do that. I think it's fair to say that this claim that we filed of $1.4 million is there, and it'll be up to someone in the distribution trust to challenge that number if they wish, and if they do, then we will have to do more we will have to do some homework. as to what it's cost the fire department that rebounds to us in part. And whatever else this city has had to expend because of opioid abuse. Generally is limited to police and fire. But I'm asking if there's any objection if we vote yes. So I can proceed. There's a limited time frame to get the ballot back. It has to be in their hands by July 14th. In their hands is somewhere in New York. So it's not where I can hand it locally.
Wasn't there something that happened with the family? They sold some shares when they knew they were under scrutiny and
Well, there's been a whole lot of investigation into
Yeah.
the Sackler family.
And then you mentioned shareholders. So the shareholders, I own stock in Purdue Pharmaceuticals, and I got dividends. Somewhere along the line, they could come back and say, I'm going to take your dividends away to pay for these.
I'm not saying that at all.
Okay. But it could happen.
I'm not saying that at all.
Okay.
What I am saying is that the big ones are getting released so that you can't sue them. And I say you, I mean the city, whether you might have an independent right, because you didn't get a ballot, I assume. Yeah, that would still be an issue out there. I mean, one of the goals of the bankruptcy process is to try to, and these cases are rare, but when they happen, they're big. The first big one that I remember was Baldwin United across the river. They pianos, but they got into a lot of other stuff. And there's been a couple across the river that have ended. So this has not been done in a vacuum. There is 30 or 35 years of history of Macy's, the parent company of Macy's, Federated. There's another example, and as these become more complex, there are layers that are developed, but the problem with an individual or an individual city, particularly a city like ours, is you just don't have the resources to really take them on. If you're New York City, I'm sure that claim is in the billions. That might be something to consider, but for a city with a population of under 5,000, that's probably not realistic. And
It's probably going to take a very, very long time to weave its way through the court system.
well, the hearing on confirmation of this plan is in July.
So they're
And-
not fighting it for Purdue, is it?
I would expect it to be confirmed. I don't think the order will go on in July. There will be wrinkles to it, and there will be some
So
amendments
long
made.
for
But, we might receive something in a couple of years.
5 years.
I think less than 5 years.
And you said this goes until 2040, right?
Well, the
So-
proof of claim is an estimate of the damages caused for a 40-year period. And when I say that's unique, usually, in every other case I've ever been familiar with, I mean, I've been involved in thousands of bankruptcies, either as a trustee or as filing them myself as an attorney or defending, representing credit. I've represented banks, credit unions, individuals, whatever. What you file a proof of claim for is the money you're owed at the time the bankruptcy is filed. So the cutoff date is the day the bankruptcy is filed, not 20 years hence. And that's why I don't necessarily have the biggest faith in the number, but they need a number to start with. So, okay, well, we have a basis to say this is what we're owed. We don't have any independent basis to say Crescent Springs should claim X number of dollars. I mean, if we get it, I think it's wonderful. It'll help pay for the firehouse, maybe. And like I said, the alternative is to take it on yourself, which I just think is overwhelming at this point.
No alternative.
So I intend to adopt or agree to the plan and vote our share, if I can use that term very broadly, unless I'm hearing objection. So I want to make sure that council and the city all heard something about it today before this process got too much further down the road. You know, I could get something in a week that says the whole deal's off, it's all blown up. Okay, it's blown up. We're back to the beginning. Okay, so, and that happens sometimes. I mean, I don't know if this is, please?
You need a motion to allow you to vote on behalf of us?
It won't hurt to have a motion.
I move to allow Mike Baker to represent the city by voting in the affirmative in the Purdue Pharma bankruptcy case.
And I'll second.
Is that good enough? Christie Arlinghouse,
Yes.
Mike Doherty,
Yes.
Carol McGowan,
Yes.
Chad Longbones,
Yes.
Deborah No,
Yes.
Patrick Hackett.
Yes.
And I'm sorry I took so long to talk about it.
Okay, so prior to our adjournment, are there any citizens or guests that would like to address council? If so, we'll limit that to about 2 minutes or so.
Yeah, this won't take long. I'd like to address you, Mayor, and would like to thank you and tell you I appreciate the action you took on Rips Road, Veterans Way, and I also appreciate your willingness to listen to the people in the community.
Sure,
So thank you.
absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Flaherty. All right, anybody else?
Mayor, I just have a question about, I'll address it to Deborah. How did the farmer's market go?
Went well, it went well.
How many vendors?
12 vendors. They had a great time. They were very appreciative. Couldn't have managed without Joel, by the way, who was
Thanks, Joel.
Mr. Muscle for everything. It was very hot. It was very well received.
And I assume that everybody had a business license for the city?
They did.
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'd like to know why the prayer was not said before the council meeting.
We have not actually done a prayer for the last few council meetings, and there's no particular reason why.
Well, I would personally like to see it happen again.
Thank you.
I've been on council for 14 years and involved in the city for 24 years. And every council meeting that I attended, there was a prayer.
Yes.
And I would like to see the prayer
I agree with you.
reinstituted. I think it's appropriate for us to do
I
that.
agree.
Unless it's non-denominational.
Yeah, it just not, don't say the Hail Mary, you know, and don't say anything from the Koran or from, you know, the Torah. But or we could even have just a silent moment of reflection or something like that, you know. But I think it's been our history to do this. And I think we should continue it. We all know we need God's help.
And also, citizens like me, I can come and raise my hand at the end of the meeting. Is that the norm? Or is there going to be where, on your agenda, where it's there for anyone here that can speak? I mean, it used to be on the agenda, of course, we're going back a while, that if it was at the end, if anyone had anything to say, they could write their name down, and he would call off the name. So that's why I signed in, thinking that maybe my name would be called.
Sure. So it's not it's not necessarily going to be on the agenda. I think that'll largely depend on what our agenda entails. But I think to that point, that's what we're doing right now, is allowing residents and guests to speak, because we do have time in tonight's meeting. So,
Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Before we actually move to adjournment, there was one more item on the agenda, which was any questions from council on committee reports that were submitted.
I would just like to make a suggestion that if there's something of any substance that the public needs to know about out of the committee report, we may have it, but a main vehicle for people to find things out besides the signs and everything else. A lot of people watch this on Facebook.
Yeah.
And especially they watched it during COVID on Facebook, we know that. I think if something important is coming up, a new project, a big event, something like that, I think it behooves us to let our citizens know. So I think we need to have the chairperson of that committee call out whatever's the hot button topic, you know, and just mention it, not go into a big spiel about it, but mention it so that the public is aware. You know, we get questions all the time, what's going into this such and such store? And it's kind of an embarrassment not to know what's going in the storefront. Sometimes we don't know ourselves, the city. Other times we do know, and we could tell them, and we might have, you know, a big shopping center going to happen. We don't want it to break ground, and that's the way that people find out. I just think that there's just a short, brief statement.
One of the things that I would recommend, because I think we will stick with the written committee reports because of, in the sake of time. A couple of things I would say to that. First and foremost, I think, to your point, if there is a big event or something like that to discuss, I think maybe a more appropriate venue would probably be at the caucus meeting to do that. So we can certainly look at that. The other point that I would make is that despite the fact that there is not a full committee report readout at the council meetings any longer, those committee reports are available to the public at any time, especially if they want to contact our city clerk or even stop into the city building. So it's not a situation where that information is not available to the public. It most certainly is. It's just not going to be presented in the same way that it has been. So, but thank you for the feedback. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I still think we need to be more transparent in that people expect it to be coming from the city council. And it doesn't need to be a big, long report. It can just be...
Those written reports are coming from the city council, and they are available to all of our residents at any time.
Not everybody has access to Facebook, especially some of our older people. They don't do it.
They don't have to have access to Facebook. They have to be able to either contact our city clerk or come to the city building.
So they should call every month and say what's going on in the city?
No, that's not what is being said here. We're talking about committee reports in particular.
I'm not talking about going into a long committee report.
Can I
I'm just
Chad,
saying
please.
hot button topics.
Can I inject something here?
Sure.
We have the same problem at the church that I go to, okay? There are new services out there that the city we can explore into it, and what they did at the church was they got a number that people can text their phone number to and sign up for a text message blast. And here internally in the city, we can send notices out on a regular basis. If people want to get the information, it will come across the phone as a text message. So they don't have to go to Facebook, they don't have to call the city, and we can push the information out to the residents.
I agree with you about that. I just would like to hear something officially on record of some major thing that's happening in the city. I don't think it would take up that much time.
And there's not any type of issue with that. I think we're talking about two different things. I think sharing important information or events is absolutely key to these meetings. Yeah. But we were talking more specifically about committee reports and leaving those in a written format, which we will continue to do.
And so for the people who aren't on Facebook or don't know how to use it, if they have a smartphone, they can sign up for that list, and then when we push out a notice, we can let them know what information.
The other thing I would say is, yeah, we do have actually multiple methods of communicating different events to our residents. Facebook is just one. The website is another. We have a quarterly newsletter that goes out, as well as all of our city signs. So there are a variety of methods. It's not just an online or social media presence. I'm not on social media myself, and there's, I think, a variety of opportunities, and I like Chad's idea, and I think it's a valid point. And as well as the signs, I know the event this weekend, the farmers market, we just had kind of the old-fashioned signs stuff in the lawn, I think, which was a nice way to kind of advertise it as well. So I think we do have a variety of ways, but I agree, the more we can get those out to everyone is certainly a positive.
There's so many different venues of communication these days, not everybody's clued into all, it's only
Yeah.
certain ones.
And I think it's incumbent upon us to communicate in a variety of ways, so folks, no matter what their preferred method is, can get those bits of information.
I'd like to clarify something. In April, is the caucus meeting taped?
No, it is not.
So residents' only availability to information from the caucus meeting is if they read the minutes or they come to the meeting. I just want to clarify that for people that may be watching this later on, be looking for a caucus
Now, wait a
meeting
minute.
on video, and it's not going to be on the website or the Facebook page.
We've never taken a vote on caucus meetings,
No,
the minutes. So if you want to look up Facebook like everybody else, everything would be live. But again, there is some responsibility of citizens. These people came and made an effort to be here, to voice their opinion. I'm glad to see some people in the audience.
yeah.
I really am. So there is some responsibility of the citizens to take a little time sometimes to get involved in the community.
I agree with you.
I would simply ask that everybody on council limit the use of your emails.
What?
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right, thanks, everyone.